Hello, very good evening to all of you, and welcome to Joint Caucus on the JoyNews channel. It's a Friday evening, the final Friday in the month of August 2020. So, on Saturday, the NPP launched its Manifesto for Election 2020. Now, the manifesto-themed leadership of service, protecting our progress, transforming Ghana for all, seeks to ensure that the NPP consolidates gains in its first term in office for re-election. And among others, the NPP seeks to build an airport in the central regional capital of Cape Coast, a harbour, and also establish a national rent assistance scheme for young persons and ensure a no-guarantor system for tertiary students. How feasible are these promises of the NPP, including a free Wi-Fi, among others? We'll be interrogating these promises here on Joint Caucus. But it's also been a week of lots of conversation about the Ijapa mineral royalty deal. Lots of questions on the minds of many of you. You've asked the question, what is it that the government of Ghana will trade certainty for uncertainty? Why would the government of Ghana trade a certainty in the receipt of royalty to the uncertainty in the receipt of dividends? That's if they come in. Why would the government of Ghana engage in the deal which, according to the Attorney General, is just not in the best of the country? And, according to the Attorney General, the deal is such that it defeats the separation of powers because the judiciary cannot rule on that particular deal. We'll interrogate all these issues here on Joint Caucus. My name is Winston Amwa, and after this break, I'll be introducing my guest, and then we'll get the discussions underway. We'll be right back. All right, so welcome back from the short break, and thank you so much for staying with us. I've been joined by Nana Damwa, who's the Communications Director of the Ministry of Energy, and he represents the NPP. We're expecting a representative from the NDC, so once he gets in, I would also introduce him and have the conversation. But let me say good evening to you, Nana. Thank you very much for joining us. So your party launched its manifesto over the weekend in Cape Coast, lots of promises, about 150 of them we have counted. A bit of a departure from, when you were in opposition. Is it an indication that your party has learned some lessons when it comes to the promise and its implementation, hence the decision to minimize the number of the promises?
Good evening to you, Washington, and good evening to your viewers as well. It's good to be back. I started my career on a similar platform, Minority Caucus in those days, yes. I believe, in 2012. So it's good to be back, and it's good to be back on this platform. We take it very seriously, and we understand what it is that it means to be able to provide relevant information to the people of Ghana. It's not an indication that this government has moved away from anything. And I would want to read to you the President's message that he gave at the beginning of everything. And it is right here encapsulated in the manifesto, the very first page. And this is what it says. We in the New Patriotic Party fully understand the consequence of putting a signature to a contract. In 2016, we presented our manifesto titled Change, an Agenda for Jobs, Creating Prosperity and Equal Opportunity for All to the Ghanaian people. Now, what we have done in this manifesto is to first of all show how we have proceeded to tackle the promises that we made to the people of Ghana. Again, we are humble enough to admit that we have not been able to achieve all of the promises that we made, even though we've gone ahead to achieve or work on quite a lot of them. And it is very, very gratifying, for example, to note that the Vice President in his message says that 4 years on, I'm proud to say that we have delivered on, and watch this word, most of our promises. He did not say we worked on all of our promises. He goes ahead to say we have delivered on most of our promises. And then we go ahead to give a detailed account of what we have done on a lot of them. So since I'm coming from the energy field, will take you to the energy and petroleum aspect of it. Now, when it comes to some of them, for instance, we do an accounting to the people. And so you look at promise number 158 in the 2016 manifesto, which we said we're going to end DIMSO, which cost the Ghanaian economy an estimated $680 million in 2014 alone. And that has been done and is stated clearly. We also said we're going to develop a 10-year power sector master plan to meet medium and long-term energy needs. The integrated power system master plan has been done, and that is executed. There are some that we admit that we haven't managed to finish in totality, and so we give you the progress on what has been done so far. For example, when it comes to the Palugu Dam, Palugu is a bit of an issue because it is not necessarily a totally energy project. It has a bit of energy, it has a bit of agriculture, it has a bit of other things in there. And we say that work has begun. The sword has been cut, we've cleared the site, contractors have been mobilized, and community engagement is ongoing. So with the promise of Palugu Dam, for example, we are honest with the people up front that we haven't been able to do it 100%. We are still doing work on it. What we have done, and which we are counting as 150, is to make add-ons to the ones that we haven't been able to totally achieve. And it is these promises that we add on to the ones that we have to ensure that we are able to consolidate the gains that we have made so far. Okay. So it's not a departure.
I certainly would come back to you. We need to look at the feasibility and suitability of the promise that you made in your manifesto. But we'll go for a short break, and we'll be joined by the NDC's representative after this break. We'll be right back. Right, so welcome back. Thank you very much for staying with us. And to my left is the NDC's representative. That's the Ashanti Regional Communication Officer, Abbas Nuruddin. Abbas, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Good. So, Nana, yes, let me get back to you. And I ask the point. One of the challenges that people have had with the party you represent is the fact that there seem to be so many promises which amount to, if you could put it, consumption. Okay? Now, you're making additional promises, and this time around you're looking at the establishment of a national rent assistance scheme. The question Ghanaians are asking is, why don't we help people to get well-paying jobs so they can rent their own facilities? Why don't we solve the housing deficit so that the demand for housing will be low and as a result affect the pricing when it comes to housing so people can go ahead and rent their own houses?
Okay, thank you very much. The issue is not that we are not doing any of the things that we suggested. But we admit the fact that, listen, Ghana, though it is a middle-income country, is a lower middle-income country. And we believe in capitalism. But we are also of the understanding that, I mean, the proverbial five fingers, they're all not the same. There are shortages in there. There are some people that when they finish school, their parents are able to give them money to go and rent their first flats or apartments or whatever. There are even some who move straight out of their parents' houses into houses built for them by their own parents. There are also some who do not even have where to stay, to be able, even when they found jobs, to be able to live a comfortable life enough to do their work. So what we are trying to do is to meet all the aspects of the society at the various points in which we are. To be able to understand the idea and the philosophy with which the NPP operates, let me take you back to the first tenure of the NPP in the Fourth Republic, which was between 2001 and 2008. Now, if you look at the area of education, for example, the first thing we did was to understand that there were challenges. So we brought in the capitation grant to ensure that school-going children were not supposed to pay fees before they go into the school. Then we realized that some of the children were not even going to school despite the fact that the school was free, for the simple reason that they were hungry. If they went to school, they had nothing to eat. Parents were not willing to allow their children to even go to school because they wouldn't be able to find anything for them. We introduced the school feeding program. We understood the fact that there was a challenge with access, and some of the schools were far enough, and government wasn't able to presently then build enough schools all across the country. So Metro Mass Transit, when it was established, was given an order that when a child is in his school uniform, going to and from school, they're supposed to allow those children a free ride. All of this was supposed to enable that dream of ensuring that every Ghanaian child is able to go to school. Of course, there were shortfalls. Of course, there were shortages. In our second term, we've introduced, taken it a step further and introduced a free senior high school, which of course also comes with the attendance challenge of double track. But we are dealing with the double track. So far, about 837 buildings at various stages have been built to improve the spaces that are available in the classrooms. We've built over 8,000 classrooms alone. Now, that tells you that it is a comprehensive strategy that is being rolled out. The same with this policy that you speak of. You may tend to complain that it is aimed at ensuring, or it is more of a consumption-based policy. That's not true. The reality is that as we are doing that, we are working on one district, one factory. Now, the NDC has been known to complain that we have not been doing anything in the area of the one district, one factory. And they also very often refer us to the diagram that we put out in 2016 when we were seeking power. Now, it is heartwarming to know that we have reproduced that same diagram in this manifesto, telling you where we have done the work according to the areas that we put out. Again, it is heartwarming to know that we haven't.
Yes, but
so these are the diagrams, and I want.
Yeah, but another one. You promised. Hold on a minute. You promised one district, one factory. You promised one district, one factory, and which means you're promising 254 factories, because we have 254 districts. As we speak, you have 189 of them at various stages, with about 60 of them completed. Even there, about 28 have been started and completed by this administration. The remainder were existing factories. The question is, this list that you provided, where are the factories that you allocated or you, put to every district? Where are they?
No, that's why I'm telling you that. You remember this diagram?
I have seen it, and I'm asking, where are they? Where are the factories?
But they are listed right here. I don't know. You said, if you say you've seen it, they're listed right there.
I have seen it.
And they're listed right there. They're right there in that document. So when we say we are counting to the people of the Republic of Ghana, we use the particular diagram to speak to them. We've come out to say that even though you expected 216, we haven't been able to do 216. There are 184 at various stages of completion. We have admitted
28 of them have been completed. New factories.
Now, you see, so here's the point.
28 new factories have been completed. 48 existing factories as 1D, 1F. Add the two, 76. You promised how many? 254.
16. At the time,
yes, it was 216. But then you created new districts.
Yes.
So the policy remains one district, one factory.
Okay.
254.
Now, any fair observer.
Where are they?
Any fair observer will look at it from the point of view that two major issues. One, we have completed 28 brand new factories, 184 at various stages of completion. Between now and let's say even either December 7th or January 7th, the January 6th, whichever way you look at it, a lot more we brought on stream. And you also, it's a fair thing to say that if you look at the delays that COVID has caused, for example, that has also partially accounted for it. But even without COVID, to be honest and truthful, we may not have been able to complete the entire 216. But the fact still remains
so
that today...
you admit you couldn't have completed all of it, even without COVID?
Definitely.
So why did you make the promise?
No, but hold on. When we came into government, we explained exactly the modus operandi, and we have worked. And as the results are coming in, now, as I said here, it's August 2020. We will be able to tell and look into the glass ball and say that, listen, we have 184 at various stages of completion. Of course, we are going to work on the rest. So we have.
Let me just do this before I get to Nurdin Abbas. Now, when you came into power, the first thing the finance minister did in March when he presented his budget was an allocation of 2 million Ghana cedis to every district as equity funding for one district, one factory. That was the government telling you, we are going to play a role in it. And so even though you say, led by you're going to collaborate with the private sector, the state, through that particular budgetary allocation, was admitting that you're going to play a role. What happened to that?
Okay, now, if private investors do not find a particular proposal or a particular area interesting enough, that becomes a challenge that the government will have to work on to increase the terms and make it interesting enough for them. Do you admit that?
So you agree that at the time you were making...
I'm just saying that...
Hold on. At the time you were making the promise, you have not thought through it completely to know that certain things would change.
No, we agreed to no such thing. This is the point I'm making. That you have made my case for me by telling the viewers out there that the government made a commitment of 2 million Ghana cedis to every district to show the government's commitment to that. We were also bold enough to explain to the people.
But you later on said this was going to be led by the private sector.
It was not later on.
Hold on. When government had actually made this funding available, and a critical look of our local economic development plan would tell you that if you are embarking on such a project, which is community-based, the community leads it.
So the government provided the funding to enable that community engagement to take place. But the question I asked, which you haven't answered, is that government has allocated fairly to all districts. If private investors are not attracted to a particular area, for whatever difficulty there may be, that presents a challenge that the government will have to work further on. And that is how come we have had 184 projects. That's now, there are some districts that private sector investment has been very low.
Okay.
That's a clear admission, if I may be allowed to know. Yeah. But what is interesting is that 184 of these have been worked on. And again, we've accounted to the people per the diagram.
Out of the 189 being worked on, 61 are existing companies.
So subtract 61 from 189.
We're talking about 128.
New projects. That's a government that takes its promise seriously.
I will get back to you.
As opposed to the NDC that promised you e-blocks. And by the time they were done, they had completed 29, and I have the complete list of them here.
I'll get back to you. Let me get to Nuruddin Abbas. Nuruddin, thank you once again. So the NPP says they're protecting the progress they started, and they're transforming Ghana for all. Based on what they have done, they deserve another 4 years. And they've talked about the new things they are going to do. The National Rent Assistance Scheme, the no guarantor tertiary education loan, and the construction of a harbour for Cape Coast and an airport for Cape Coast. What do you make of all of these?
Thank you very much. Before I proceed, let me say a warm good evening to yourself, my co-panelists and viewers out there. I must say I'm very happy with the way the whole argument has gone so far. And I think the basis for which the NPP can ask for their mandate to be renewed is to showcase to Ghanaians or demonstrate to Ghanaians the extent to which they have achieved the promises that formed the basis for their elections in the 2016 elections. And as I sat here, I was really awestruck by the attempts by my brother Nana Damoa to try to create an impression that government has done so well and therefore deserve to have its mandate renewed. One particular policy, flagship policy of the Akufo-Addo government that has come for public scrutiny has been the One District, One Factory program. You see, the NPP in opposition made a categorical statement. They made a promise that when they are elected into power, they are going to build 275 brand new factories.
They said they were going to collaborate with the private sector to build one factory in each district.
You see, if that was the argument, then I think there was no need for it, because successive governments have provided some stimulus package of a sort to struggling factories and have not claimed ownership of it. Under President Kufuor, we had venture capital that sought to create some kind of support for struggling companies. Under President Rawlings, we had the EDIF funds. And under President Mahama, we had what we call the Exim Bank that offered some stimulus package to pharmaceutical companies like Tobinco and Kama to produce antiretroviral.
This is construction of new factories.
No, you see, let me use the Ashanti region as a case study. All the factories that this government is listing as One District, One Factories are factories that are sometimes 20, 30 years older than the Akufo-Addo government. The typical example is Dako Farms. Dako Farms has been in existence since the early 80s. So how did that become part of the One District, One Factory government claim to build? You go to Kumasi and there is this fashion company called UniJ. UniJ started operating in the early 90s, but it has been captured as one district, one factory. Obibini black man and a host of pharmaceutical companies has been captured as one district, one factory. So the government has flattered to deceive on almost all its flagship program, and having hoodwinked the people in voting for them, they have amended their claim. I'm daring Nana Damwa to go beyond the pictures and mention the names of the factories they claim they have done. I think the NPP as a political party should for once take Ghanaians serious, should come and apologize for having deceived them. You see, when they were elected in 2016, they came up with a chart. In the Ashanti region, when you go to Ejura, they said they were going to build a cornflakes factory. When you come to my own Achumang Obieja, they said they were going to build a ginger processing factory. When you go to Ahafo, they are going to build a poultry processing factory. None of these factories has been built, in spite of the fact that there's been yearly budgetary allocation for the construction of factories. And Nana Damwa has come to sit on TV to brandish projects that they have no hands in. I think Ghanaians deserve better. And this politics of, if you like, lies, this politics of deliberate distortions must end somewhere. Let's go to the One Village, One Dam. You promised to build meaningful dams that will support all-year farming in the northern region. You went to build dugouts, and when the Minister of Special Initiative was asked, he said the monies that has been allocated to him cannot construct any meaningful dams. Yet you have gone to put all those dugouts that has become a blot on our national pest, that has become a total waste of national resources. You've gone to put them in a book and come to brandish them as achievements. I think as a country, we need to move away from this. One thing that the NPP is very good at is the politics of sloganeering. It's the politics of name calling. Beyond the names, beyond the sloganeering, you go down and you realize there is nothing concrete. I'm challenging Nana Damwa. Boris B. Do you know Boris B. poultry processing industry? It has been in the system for the past 15 years, but this government is claiming it as part of the one district, one factory. If offering stimulus packages for resin existing companies qualify a government to claim ownership for factories, then President Mahama Mills built more than 1,000 factories because we offered stimulus package to the publishing industry, which aided the local production of most of the textbooks. We offered support to the pharmaceutical industries. I've named Tobinco, I've named Kama, and they were able to produce antiretroviral drugs in Ghana and exported it to the other francophone countries, which brought in the much needed foreign exchange. President Mahama built the Chiabo gas processing factory, which provides about 1,000 direct and indirect jobs. He built the Wankam tiles processing factory.
The Chiabo factory started under President Mills.
Well, but it ended. About 80% of it was it got completed under the Mahama administration. You come to Kumasi, the jute factory was revitalized by President Mahama. The Commander sugar factory, the Bope share nut processing factory. The president, if it's not working, I think the question we should be asking is why has the Akufo-Addo government left the Tuabo, left the Commander sugar factory and the Bope share nut processing factory to rot? It's a blame that should be placed squarely on the doorstep
after the commissioning of the Commander sugar factory. What we said, what was communicated after that was that we needed additional about $30 million, to actually engage in the process, in the plantation of sugarcane to feed the factory. Fact, continue.
You see, the NDC government has secured about 250 million euros to feed the production of raw material within the Aboise enclave. This government came to meet that fund, the Commander sugarcane enclave. This government came to meet that facility and diverted it for another purpose. If the Commander
sugar factory, to where?
I think the government spokesperson can say, but if time would allow us, I'm going to adduce documentary proof to back the claim that Parliament, I may not be, because of the limitation of time and space, I may not be able, but by the end of the program, I may be able to get a news publication or the document to prove that Parliament approved an off-taker agreement facility that will aid the production of sugarcane, that will serve as a raw material for the Commander Sugar Factory. This government came, it decided...
While you were waiting for the raw material, what was the factory supposed to do?
Well, the factory, we all know that the factory embarked on some test transmission, and you know sugarcane as a raw material is a seasonal crop that couldn't have been made available at the time the factory was being commissioned. So the right thing the government could have done was to source some facility to ensure an all-season production of sugarcane to feed the industry. Now, let me...
hold on. You're admitting that we commissioned a factory at the time the raw materials for all year processing wasn't ready. We're now in the process of doing that.
The point... Right? The point I made was that when the factory was commissioned and test run completed, the sugarcane that was supposed to feed, that was supposed to serve as raw materials, had not matured at the time.
So in effect, we didn't have the raw material for production after the commissioning.
Like I said, sugarcane is a seasonal crop.
So we didn't have the raw material.
The processes has been...
Yes or no? We didn't have the raw material.
Measures have been put in place to ensure that in the short term there would be raw material to feed.
So the factory would be on hold until the raw materials were ready.
No, in the short term,
yes.
In like 2-3 months, the raw materials was going to
So in those 2-3 months, the factory would be on hold.
You see, sugarcane is a seasonal
I just asked you a yes or no question.
No, but there were test runs,
and so in your own words, in the 2 to 3 months we were waiting, the factory was going to be on hold.
You see, if you look at the operational arrangement of Commander, it was not supposed to be an all-round factory. It was supposed to produce sugar up to a certain point and go for retrofitting, by which time the raw materials would have matured. So if the company light fallow for like 2 months, it was part of the operational arrangement of Commander Sugar Factory. Now, one thing that Nana Damoah refused to talk about was the excessive borrowing of the Akufo-Addo government. This is a government that claimed that the Mahama administration was borrowing too much and imposing so much taxes on Ghanaians, but it is the government that has accumulated the largest amount of debt ever since we in the post-independent era. This is a government that came to meet a debt stock of 120 billion for a period of 60 years. In a matter of 3.5 years, it has accumulated 135 billion old Ghana cedis with very little to show. The little that Mahama borrowed, it was invested in capital expenditure. But this government is borrowing and spending on production, on consumption. So there has been this apprehension that how are we going to pay all these monies government are borrowing at very high interest rate when there is nothing to show physically for the amount being borrowed. Apart from the borrowing, this is the government that has had the largest number of oil receipts. 141 billion in 3 years, 110 million in taxes over the past 3 years. But there is nothing to show. Indeed, according to the finance minister, since 2017, about 1.7%, the amount invested in physical infrastructure is 1.7% of GDP. President Mahama was doing 4.7 to 5%. These are the critical areas we want the Akufo-Addo-led administration and spokespersons like Nana Damoah to give Ghanaians explanation to. And one particular team that was missing, that featured prominently in their 2016 manifesto, that was conspicuously missing in 2020, was the issue of corruption and how they were going to fight it. President Akufo-Addo in 2016 said, he is going to make corruption a high-risk, low-end venture, and he's going to put measures in place to fight corruption. Of about the 20 people that spoke at their manifesto, like, none of them made corruption a theme. Is it because the Akufo-Addo government has become corruption personified? Is it because there have been instances where the presidency, where the vice presidency and key ministers are involved in dubious deals like the PDS and the Ameri deal? In the next minute, I want Nana Damoah to tell me what this government has done about the numerous corruption scandals, and why the Office of the Special Prosecutor, that was touted as the panacea to the fight against corruption in this country, has been handicapped from tackling the numerous corruption that has come out.
Hold on 1 minute.
I'll
get another one to react in 2 minutes, so we need to move on to our next issue. Yes.
Thank you very much. Now, you see, this election is about two options, two people. Now, we have President Akufo-Addo, and we have John Dramani Mahama, the ex-president. John Dramani Mahama, according to what my friend here is saying, test runs were achievements, and they branded them as companies, established companies that were working. He mentioned the Commander Sugar Factory. When he pushed them, he said they did test runs, and that was that. Let's use the same region, the central region. We have a Kumfi juice factory and the Commander Sugar Factory. A Kumfi's products are in the market today. Anybody can go out there and go and buy. What happened to the Commander Sugar Factory? Test runs are achievements. If you want to move on to the second round, I showed him clearly, as he was speaking, the companies that we are talking about. And this is a document that is there. Anybody can verify and check. Where they were existing companies, they are boldly labeled existing factories operating as 1D1.
Let me.
Boss, I beg you. Where it is a new factory, we state clearly that this is a new factory. Now you go on to the next page and we say that under construction, new factories, you understand, new factories existing as part of old ones. We've categorized all of them clearly and boldly here. They are clearly interested in playing the ostrich, so I have no problem with that. What we are giving you are facts and honesty, and that's what this government would do. Again, I would want to, with permission, refer, and as he has taken my book, I'll just take another photocopy. I knew this would happen, so I prepared myself. It's very obvious that he hadn't read what he was saying, but then he just came to say it. So he's now checking it out. But the facts are this. May I finish, please? The fact is this, that when you look at what Dr. Mahamadou Bawumia said, and again, I'll say it, 4 years on, I'm proud to say that we have delivered on most. Operational word is most. He didn't say we've done everything. Now, if you want us to take a look at percentages, the NDC promised 200 schools, and per their own admission, when they were leaving, they had done 124 of those schools. That amounts to 62%. We promised 216 companies under 1D1F at the time the promise was made. As at now, 189 of them are in operation. That amounts to 87.5%. This is the track record that we are speaking about. Clearly, I can understand why they are so uncomfortable with dealing with these facts. On the issue of corruption, for example.
Finally, before
now, if you look clearly, and they want to say that nothing has been done, more than 40 high-profile persons has been charged with various acts arising out of actions and inactions, superintended upon mostly by the previous administration. The prosecutions are there. Some of them are actually in prison as we speak. If those are not deterrent action, again, every allegation of corruption that has been made against...
Who are those in prison?
Oh, we all know them. The Snit case that ended up in prison. We all know the litany of cases that have ended up in prison. Again, remember that during the 8 years of the NDC administration...
Which Snit case are you making reference to?
The... what do you call it? Let's even go to the NTA case. The NTA case where the board had, they attempted to buy some facility and then the money were not paid and all of. They're in prison as we speak. Sure. And in the 8 years of the NDC administration, not a single official of the Kudfo administration could be sent to jail on any act of corruption.
Okay.
They simply could not prove all of it.
Let me give, just wrap up. Let me give Abbas, hold on. No, you wrap up in 30 seconds, so Abbas could also wrap up. And then we'll move to a Japan royalty agreement.
They simply cannot prove any of the wild allegations they're making. Nothing.
Yes, Abbas.
I have identified one company that has been listed here as a new factory, which has been in existence since the 2000. And the name of the company is Prefos Ghana Limited. Please go on Google and check when the Prefos Ghana Limited. It is a company that even won contracts, electrification contracts under the... Please. That won electrification contracts under the Mahama administration. This is a company, you see, this is a company that has been listed as part of the one that... Please, allow me. You see, the whole manifesto is nothing but a cocktail of lies and private initiatives that the NPP cannot lay ownership to. You see, go to page 63 of their manifesto. I don't know whether this is the abridged version. What they have done so far, they claim they have constructed a district hospital at Obuasi. I'm putting my membership of the NDC on the line. If it is indeed proven that the NPP has built a district hospital at Obuasi, read this. If it is indeed established that the NPP has constructed a district hospital at Obuasi, I will resign my position as the communication director for the NDC in the Ashanti region and join the NPP. It's nothing but a complete lie. You see, this manifesto has a lot of similarity with the now infamous Dr. Baumia delivery tracker. It's a cocktail of phantom initiatives and ghost projects that the Akufo-Addo government cannot lay claim to. I have thrown a challenge. This is MPP's.
Hold on. I have seen it.
Let me read it. Page 63. What we have done so far, the government has stated that it has the construction of a district hospital at Obuasi, a Nyinem Trauma Hospital, and rehabilitation of Enyiresi Government Hospital has been completed. I'm throwing a challenge to Nana Damoa and any MPP member out there. If they are able to prove that indeed they have built a hospital at Obuasi, that has been stated in their manifesto, I will resign my membership as a member of the MPs and join them. So it's nothing but a complete lie.
Thank you, all of you. We need to move on. And hold on.
He threw a challenge, and I just...
So you want to answer that in 30 seconds?
Fantastic.
Yes, I want to answer that in 30 seconds. First of all, you see, I've come in with documents, and I've proved everything I have said. You'd have done yourself a lot of good if you brought even one piece of evidence to show any of the allegations that you have made. Again, just to prove your track record on this show, you have come and said that test-run facilities are completed factories in this country. So may I say that your credibility is not in the highest of ranks when it comes to these things. May I finish? May I please finish? I'm not determining anything.
Let him finish.
May I please finish?
You appointed yourself a moral judge.
Hold on. Please.
Okay.
So all I'm saying is that...
Hold on, all of you. If you want to make any reaction, you draw my attention, and I'll do that. Go ahead.
Now, all I'm trying to say is that all you have said so far are based on your own words and your constructions. And you've not been able to adduce a shred of evidence, not one, not a scintilla of evidence, to prove any of the many allegations you have made. I would be very happy if what you are... And you see, you're now transferring the responsibility of the allegation you have made to me.
How?
You are saying it's not been constructed and you don't have any evidence.
It's not.
Okay, hold on, all of you. We need to move on to our next issue. I am fact-checking the Obuasi hospital now, and I'll put the information out there.
Thank you.
And so let's move on to our next issue, and I'll start off with you, Abbas Nudin. It has to do with the Japan Mineral Royalty Agreement. There's been lots of conversation about it. Now, let me ask you, if a government goes to Parliament and based on the Mineral Income Investment Fund sets up a special purpose vehicle to list royalties on the stock exchange, the London Stock Exchange and the Ghana Stock Exchange. What's wrong with it?
You see, there is everything wrong with this Ejapa arrangement, and every right-meaning Ghanaian might join the civil society organizations and the independent-minded Ghanaians that have rose in arm against this particular agreement. You see, what is this whole deal about? Government want to go in for a loan. But because government has already borrowed so much, it doesn't want to go on its own books. So it want to create a special vehicle in order to absolve itself from liability, so that whatever money government borrows will not be added to its national debt stock. That will probably lead it to be declared as a highly debt-distressed country. In so doing, government has imposed some terms that are so onerous, and to use the words of the Attorney General, unconscionable, that it is not going to give Ghana value for money. Why am I saying this? You see, one particular attribute that every nation holds dear in it dealing with other countries and other multinational organizations is our national sovereignty. Under this whole Ejapa arrangement, government is undermining the state sovereignty of Ghana and effectively ousting the jurisdiction of our courts. Why am I saying this? Government has created a special purpose vehicle and indicated that that special purpose vehicle is not subjected to our laws, i.e. Ghanaian laws are not applicable to this whole Ejapa. And we know under company law that sometimes companies can be formed for fraudulent purposes and or to evade contractual liabilities. And when companies are formed for fraudulent purposes and to evade contractual liabilities, there may be a point that the jurisdiction of the court must be invoked in order to lift the veil of incorporation. When the veil of incorporation is lifted, then the directors and the company become one, so that the state security agencies can go after the directors in order to recoup whatever investment that has been lost. Here is the case that the identities of the stakeholders in this whole Japa deal are being hidden by government, and not even parliamentarians were given the opportunity to know who the directors are. The question is, why is government hiding the identities of the directors of the Japa deal? Secondly, if you go to the Constitution, this whole Japa deal is an affront to Article 267 of the 1992 Constitution. You see, if you go to Article 267 of the 1992 Constitution, royalties are supposed to be collected by the state on behalf of the various tools. And the Constitution has provided a distribution formula by which those royalties must be shared, i.e., 10% must go to the office of the administrator of stool lands as its operational cost. Then 45% goes to the district assembly for development at the district level, and then another 45% to the chiefs as royalties for as more or less, because they are the alluvial owners of the land. It goes to them as some form of compensation. Now, government is seeking to collateralize a fund to which it has no direct share.
So
Read the Constitution.
Yes, hold on. Now, after government has taken its percentage, the remainder is converted into 100%. And that is the distribution mechanism that you're talking about.
Well,
yes, that's the distribution.
You see, because
you wrap up for me, yes.
Because some key details of the Japa deal has been hidden from even Parliament. After the deal was approved by Parliament, there are a lot of people, including even the communications minister, who says they are communications minister who says enough information have not been made available to them to give them the expertise to determine whether the deal was in the best interest of Ghana. So the whole arrangement is nothing but a deliberate, a gang up to rip Ghana of its much needed resources. And the question we are asking the Akufo-Addo government is, if Ghana was a private company, will he enter into this dubious deal that will put the funds that could be used for development for posterity at risk?
Thank you. Another one. What's the justification?
I'm shocked.
We have the certainty of our royalties. Why do we want to invest in the stock exchange where there's uncertainty?
Okay, no, thank you very much. I am shocked at the sort of submissions that I've heard today. But again, one cannot help but not be too shocked as well. It's a political season, and you can understand the haste with which my friend here is seeking to find faults. First of all, the concept of trying to find innovative ways to borrow so that it does not affect the overall debt to GDP ratio of government is not a new concept. Indeed, the finance minister under the NDC, Mr. Setekpe, encouraged state institutions to borrow on their own balance books, which was previously not the case. Previously, government had to borrow for them. And the whole idea behind that was to ensure that the debt to GDP ratio of government as an entity was healthier than what it used to be. So that concept was introduced by the NDC. Out of convenience, today my friend is saying that that's a bad practice. Interesting. Did I hear him make the sovereignty argument, that the sovereignty of the people is under attack? Because that reminds me of the sovereignty argument they made in the military agreement deal. You remember? What they said, the sovereignty of this country is under rape, is a favorite illusion of the NDC. Once again, they go rush back and say the sovereignty of the state is under attack. May I ask a question?
The Attorney General's advice to the government raised issues.
That's one of the biggest fraud that they have attempted to perpetrate on the people of Ghana today. You know, they brought a letter which was dated July 22nd, 2020. Now, there's another letter of the Attorney General which is dated 12th of August, 2020, in which he says, You see, so let me explain the governance process.
In which she says...
that she has no qualms with the deal as structured. This is what happened. In making an arrangement...
Let me pick... You go ahead. I'm just picking that letter from the Attorney General.
Thank you. In making the arrangement... But you admit that there's a 12th August letter.
And so I'm picking that letter. And
no, but I want...
Yes, I know there's another letter.
There's a 12th letter.
Yes,
there's a 12th August letter.
So I want to show you that letter.
Now, the point I'm seeking to make is that, so when they seek to hide behind that document, this is what happened. You make a draft agreement, you present it to the Office of the Attorney General for their opinions. They give you your opinion, you incorporate that, if you so wish, into the agreement and send it back to them. So there has been a back and forth. In this particular Ejapa deal, there's been 5 revisions. 5 revisions of this. The letter they are referring, the Attorney General is pointing it out to the Finance Ministry and others that, listen, the agreement as you have brought offends some sections of our laws, so please pay attention to them. The Finance Ministry then looked at it and incorporated those revisions that had been suggested by the Attorney General into the deal as was finally structured. Where is the problem with it? Why are you going for an earlier version of the letter when there's a final letter? Before the deal went to Parliament, the Attorney General rendered an opinion. Where is that opinion? That's why I'm saying that it's the biggest scam that they have attempted to pass on the people of Ghana today. Now listen, I have in my hand the Minerals Income and Investment Fund Act 2018, Act 978. Now, if you would please do me a favor and allow me to read from section 3 of the Act, which says the powers of the fund. My brother says that there's nowhere that an SPV should be formed among others. Listen, A, and may I start from the totality of it? It says the powers of the fund. The fund may, and note, A, create and hold equity interest in a special purpose vehicle. Listen, in any jurisdiction, emphasis on any jurisdiction. Emphasis on any jurisdiction in furtherance of its object. And the special purpose vehicle shall be free to operate as a regular commercial company. I'm sorry, where were your members of parliament when this was being done? And today, you are saying that the government is involved in a fraudulent...
Another one, you made reference to a 12th August letter, which I have here with me.
Yes.
Our time is almost up, so I need to just read this quickly. And it says, we have reviewed the latest letter under reference and the submitted draft agreements, and note that our comments have been incorporated and changes effected to the draft agreements, except the following. 2 says, we note that clause 7.72 of the investment agreement has been considered. However, the related comment under clause 1.4 of the relationship agreement has not been considered. The comment in the relationship agreement is as follows. We note that this is a new provision introduced into the agreement which seeks to hold the Republic and the fund jointly and severally liable for their respective obligations and undertaking. It provides that, except otherwise expressly provided herein, the fund and the Republic shall be jointly and severally liable for their respective obligations, undertakings, covenants, warranties, and representatives under the deed. So there are certain parts of it.
I want to read the final comment.
There are certain parts of which have not been considered. Unfortunately, our time is up. We need to wrap it all up.
So just to land, what I'll say is that, so clearly, they have attempted to perpetrate a fraud on the people of this country.
How so?
There's a final letter where the Attorney General says that the comments that have been made in that July 22nd letter have been incorporated. Is that not true? Except a few. Not so?
And one is that sovereign immunity and waiver of defenses. We maintain our position that sovereignty resides in the state property, so-called, and not limited liability.
Hold on.
Companies. Our time is up. Our time is up.
I would really want you to finish.
Our time is up. Hold on. Although the fund in Ghana revenue are statutory bodies, they are not sovereign and therefore cannot enjoy sovereign immunities in respect of protected assets.
So the issue on that
hold on. On that note, gentlemen, our time is up. But I need to say that when it comes to mineral royalties, 80% goes to the government and the 20% are shared. 10 will go to the
I didn't have enough time to do with that. You got it totally wrong.
Thank you very much, Thank you very much, Abbas Nuruddin. That'll be all from us on this evening's edition of Joint Caucus. See you next week, same time. Have a lovely evening. My name is Mr. Namwa.